into the tree. Some miticides are better than others. Agromec's tough to beat. I think it's relatively easy on predators. There are some, and Fujimite is one of these. It's a great miticide, but it affects the reproduction of the predator mite. You won't get direct kill, but it's kind of almost a sterilant, and the predator won't reproduce live predators. But I think he made the right decision, because he was in a situation you needed to knock this down in a hurry. Where you're a little bit more on the front side of it, you might be able to go with a different type of material. All this is documented in the research reports that are given at the Almond Board program. Okay? All this stuff is documented. We now have a Fresno County farm advisor in almonds. He couldn't be here today. He had another commitment. We've got David, for those of you closer to him. And you don't, honestly, he thinks I'll blow smoke here, but you're not going to get a better advisor than David Dahl. He is an amazing young guy. He knows his, I wish I knew half as much when I was twice his age. So that's all I got. Any other questions?
Yeah, Walt, is there any different threshold for brown mite versus web spinning mites?
Yeah.
You see them, they're harder to find. You know they're there, but
brown mite won't cause the defoliation. Brown mite, I'm assuming you're talking about brown almond mite, not European red. But either one of those. Brown almond mite will cause a yellowing of the leaves. They'll tend to stay on. And you don't see those on the leaf because they go back to the spur at night. So you'll see this yellowing develop, and it'll be more uniform. You look at the leaves, you might see some eggs, but you won't see the mite. You go to the spur, that's where they are. If you came out at night, you'd find them. And they've got those long, they're almost like clover mites, those long front palpi that come out. They're easier to kill. If I had that and regularly did, I'd put an oil in the doormat. I'd go through, it knocks out the eggs of brown almond and knocks out the eggs of European red mite. And it's very, very effective. I just say, I'll take this one out of the game early.
Is this what you were referring to earlier with the macro?
Oh man, great, okay. Yeah. Okay. This is the eggs of the leaf-footed plant bug. And sometimes you see them, they'll maybe be endemic that take up, but not sure that this one's taken into the leaf.
So if it's foliar, then it's probably not systemic.
That's right. Well, with the exception of Movento, that's right. Yeah.
Would you think that we got, because of all this really hot weather we've been having, and that's mites in the bottom of the tree, we could have a real blowout here in another 2-3 weeks if it continues?
It's going to be a high.
I think with this kind of hot weather, unless you had good winter moisture, you're gonna stress that tree pretty quick. The other thing that's going to kick it in, really, is how you manage navel orangeworm and twig borer. If you go with something like Altacore, you go with Intrepid, which are not effective on the plant bugs, they don't trigger mites. They're not toxic. They're insect growth regulators. They either affect the egg stage or the molting of the insect. Not particularly a mite trigger, but the economics with the pyrethroids, Brigade, is probably less than $12 an acre. That's you get guys using that, and it's a good material. It's just that these things, the mites will go crazy.
Yeah. So what's the lesser of two evils? You damage to them, or you do all the other damage with the insecticide that's going to control that?
The thing is, we don't have much choice with the plant bugs. You're going to lose. See, that's the other issue. We got those that affect the development of the tree and those that affect the crop. You got to take care of something that's going to affect the crop first. The mite is not going to affect your yield unless it gets in so early, but you have a little bit more, and we've got a lot of materials that will take care of that. But if you don't, this is why I hate to see the preventative stuff. If you don't have it, you don't, then you don't create this other bucket of mess.
If we got plant bug, normally if I'm using one of the pyrethroids, I'll put
Amidicide?
abamectin and oil.
That's not a bad idea,
I
Tony.
mean, it's a given.
Yeah.
Even for
I mean,
mites.
if I were using a pyrethroid, I don't even sample for mites. I
What
just
kind of oil?
Just do it.
Lightweight sulfur,
yeah, you just do it.
415.
So
Real low rate.
okay, gosh.
I mean, the navel orange worm.
Yeah.
What percentage is an acceptable level? What would you?
I once had a guy told me that he could. This was in about 1982, and he's a great PCA. He says, at Paramount we can get 8% damage and still make a profit. That's not true anymore. That's not true. I've written that down, and I'm going to use it as his retirement. But it's, I'd say probably 2%.
2% is acceptable.
Yeah. None of our growers. I think we had one grower that reached 2%.
Yeah,
and that was plant bug. So I think we're in pretty good stead here. Depending on where your nuts go, sometimes you can get a bonus, depending on how it goes. But
You have to look at what your processor is. Because I've had that for years. A few years, I wasn't doing any spraying at all. You're running 4%. Not spending any money.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, you need to clean this up a little bit.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we went and started doing
yeah.
one spraying. We were getting it down to 1.5 to 1, and then the processor was much happier like that.
Yeah.
So, and with this
Exactly.
things the way as good as ours, we want to be delivering a quality product.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to look at too.
Yeah, and with the aflatoxin issue in exports, we got 65% of the crop is exported. That's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different approach on IPM. Okay, I know I'm